Hey everybody, and welcome to our early comics review video. I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
We're here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and this is our big show where we show you some of the biggest and best books that are coming out this week to your local comic book store, whether it be Infinity Flux, or if you shop at infinityflux.net. These books are available. I know now, I used to point up and vote it moved,
I've got it now,
so now I've got to like go over your face and point at it. But the books are up there right now where you can order them while supplies last, so get on that so you don't miss out, because there's a lot of big cool books this week. We've got a couple of heavy hitters to start off with, but you're going to start off with one I thoroughly enjoyed this week, and it was probably my favorite.
Yeah, mine too. X-Men #1. The From the Ashes era starts right here. The Kryptonian era is over. What? X1. Yeah. So the whole new era of X-Men starts right here in this book. This is written by Jed MacKay. The art is by Ryan Stegman. And this is going to feature this team. Now you've got Cyclops, Psylocke, Juggernaut, Beast, and all those guys. Everybody you see right here.
Down at the bottom, is it Darwin or Morph? They are not in the book.
Yeah, I don't actually know who that is. But yeah, so this is going to focus on this team right here as they have taken up refuge in one of the old Orcus bases in Alaska. And this issue kind of goes back and forth between two different story points. In one of them, Beast is giving a tour of the facilities to the local chief of police. Her name is Paula Robbins. While he's doing that, it flips over to Cyclops and his team in the field, and they're actually fighting against a group of leftover Orcus operatives known as Fourth School, because they are trying to find 6 mutants that they detected with Cerebro. So they think there's 6 other mutants out there that they need to go rescue. So there's a lot of great action in that. There's a lot of fighting between this group of X-Men and those Fourth School operatives.
It's well balanced with that one story, and there's an action story and kind of a more exposition story.
Yeah. So it's really cool. It's really cool to see Beast, and I guess it's the Beast, like the backup copy Beast that doesn't know about Krakoa.
Back from Defenders days with Wonder Man and stuff.
So those two things going on, and I don't really want to spoil anything that happens in here because it's such a big book. I want you to experience this for yourself. But I will say that during this fight that they have with these Fourth School operatives, they are surprised by something. They learn something that they were not expecting, and it raises some questions. You know, they're like, how is this possible? And that's sort of one of the things they're going to have to deal with. Also, the very last page is really cool. And what does that mean for the larger story that's going to be told here? So there's some, maybe not everything's so hunky-dory with the X-Men, and there's a nearby town.
They may still hold some feelings.
Yeah, so, there's going to be some tension with the nearby townsfolk having a group of X-Men in this giant base that used to be a plant that people worked at, and now, there's a lot of jobs lost because of that. So just a whole bunch of stuff going on here, but a whole brand new, fresh take. They do reference a couple of things that happened during the Krakoan era that I was a little bit confused about because I haven't read all of that, but it's not a major sticking point, and I feel like the further we get into this series, the further away we'll get from the Krakoan stuff, and the less you'll have to worry about knowing that if you haven't read it. So just a really well done job, kicking off this brand new era. We've got a whole bunch of other X books coming very soon. I think Phoenix is next week, which is really cool. But yeah, the artwork is really cool. The action was really cool. And hot take, my hot take is I feel like there was more action in this one issue than there was in the entire Krakoan era. As I was reading this, I was like, yeah, this feels like X-Men. They're, Cyclops is calling the shots, and all the rest of the team are coming in. They're fighting all these guys.
A moment with Juggernaut and Magic.
Yeah.
Where you see kind of how they interact because they're both kind of hotheads.
Yeah.
That was just like, this is fun.
Yeah.
I like this kind of banter, this energy this team seems to have now.
Yeah.
That it feels like we haven't had a lot of energy in our X-Men in a while.
Yeah. Juggernaut and Magic are a great little duo. Kind of bicker, but not like to the point of annoying. They just kind of like, I want to go first. No, I want to go first. That kind of thing. Just you
got Beast, who is definitely like that. Oh my stars and garters, like very classic Beast. Which, I was wondering after X-Force when he had done so many horrible things, how are they going to fix that, or will I ever be able to see Beast in a good way again.
Yeah.
And thankfully, they've worked out a way. If this is that Beast from before,
Right.
that I was reading, is like, I like this Beast.
Yeah.
Like he's charming.
Yeah, I wanted more of that Beast. Like I
Yeah.
really enjoyed, even though there are some slower moments with him and that police chief. I really liked him, and I wanted more of that. He's very pleasant and charming and kind and that kind of thing. There's also I won't tell you who, but there's a couple other mutants that pop up in this too that you don't see here on the cover. Don't know how big of a role they'll play in this book, but I wasn't expecting to see
There's a
them.
mutant that Beast says their powers are useless.
Right, right. Which is it's kind of harsh.
Yeah, that's a little mean.
But yeah, so kind of vague there, but like I said, didn't want to spoil anything because this is such a big book. This has been, we know this has been coming for a while now, and I'm on board. I wasn't the biggest fan of all the Krakoan era stuff, but I like this, so I want to see where this goes, especially with that last page. It's like, oh, that's going to come up again. I want to see that for sure. So I really, really enjoyed this. And if you're looking for a place to jump onto the X-Men, this is it right here. Jump on, just take what you can out of it. There might be a couple things you're confused about, but don't worry about it because you get almost everything you need out of this issue. So I really highly recommend it. So there is our A cover right there.
There's stuff. I wish this was like a complete spoiler show because there's things I want to say. There's a character that appears that looks like it's going to kind of be the lead into another X book.
Right.
And there's a homage with that character, with the colors and the position of things. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, really.
It just feels like a love letter to X-Men in general,
for sure.
too.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got this Tony Daniel variant right there. Looks really good. That's your team in this book. There's also this John Tyler Christopher Negative Space variant with Magic. She's really great in this. I like her a lot in this. Of course, you got to have your Scotty Young variant. That's really fun. Wait, is Juggernaut... Oh, I thought Juggernaut was holding Magic, but he's not, no. There's a Peach Momoko variant, also featuring Magic. Very, very cool. I like what you said the other day. Just in case you don't know what the X-Men logo looks like, there it is on that cover. This is the Koblish variant featuring pretty much every character.
And I guess he's doing a few of these to cover...
It would take that many, probably,
the entire thing.
We have this nice J. Scott Campbell variant with Psylocke. And then we've got this 1 in 25 George Perez variant that we're selling for $9.99. And Ryan Stegman said that he draws his Beast as kind of, to kind of match this Beast right here. It's kind of an homage to George Perez's Beast from back in the 70s. And it looks like it. It's very well done.
Yeah, his little flip in his hair.
Yeah, the dark circles under his eyes, yeah. And then there's this 1 in 100 J. Scott Campbell Virgin variant that we're selling for just under $110. So, yeah, grab that one because it's really cool.
And Psylocke is cool in this, too. It's cool that I can see, again, like, oh, this is what your role on the team is. Right. This is what your role on the team, which feels classic X-Men.
Yeah, everybody was great. I liked the roster and all the characters. Like, just good
Keep
all around. Mm-hmm.
So, next up, I've got Absolute Power Task Force 7, number 1. This is the beginning of our 7-part intermediate series to the other Absolute Power, the main 4-issue run. So, because we're only getting one of those a month.
Right.
So they're keeping up with the Absolute Power Origins story you're going to be getting. Those are going to be your main kind of tie-ins outside of like Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
So this one is going to be focusing on a different one of Amanda Waller's Amazo robots that they've created along with the Queen Brainiac. It's failsafe. That is going around and basically absorbing the powers of the superhero community to, add to their own roster of powers. So this is a really interesting one. This one is by Leah Williams and Caitlin Yarsky, and this focuses on the Amazo robot Last Son, which is the kind of Superman version of that character. So we get kind of some of the introduction to Amanda Waller kind of basically explains what all this is about, what their job is. So it's, it's a nice refresher. But there's a couple of characters Amanda Waller wants to send Last Son after, and that is Billy Batson, the Captain, or Shazam, and Mary, I always forget her last name, Bromfield, who's Mary Marvel, is going to send him because apparently something happens in Wonder Woman, which comes out next week.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is this makes references to a couple things that happened in Wonder Woman number 11, which doesn't come out till the 17th. So a little bit of a scheduling snafu there. It's not super confusing. You still understand what's going on. It's just that we don't get to see what happens until next week.
So this issue is mostly Last Son hunting down those two members of the Shazam family as they have escaped, and they know if we transform into Mary Marvel and the Captain, they're gonna, basically we're gonna pop up on the radar.
Yeah.
So we've got to keep a low profile, and they're hiding out at the Rock of Eternity. Now, I don't want to give it away how, but Amanda Waller not only has the Amazo robots, but she has other characters that she kind of uses as tools. And she has a tool of a character to help this Amazo robot find the kids. Which I thought was cool, and it kind of harkens back to some previous stories and other books with this character that I thought was oh yeah, that makes sense. But of course, there's also going to be, we know this is not going to go well for pretty much our main cast throughout this entire series. They're not going to be beating these Amazo robots in the series. So there is a character that puts up a fight, a pretty good fight in this, but you'll have to read to find out what happens to them. Now, the little things I thought were interesting in this is we see the Task Force VII, these Amazo robots. We see Last Son, where not only does it seem they absorb the powers, but some of the personality of the given heroes. So Last Son has a bit of Superman in him. Speaks almost like a golden age version of Superman, but a little twisted, a little like malfunctioning. So really interesting, like how to also differentiate them other than their colors and that kind of thing, their powers. It seems like maybe they'll have a little bit of that personality as well. Kind of like how Failsafe has Batman's personality.
And we saw some of that out of the Paradise Lost Amazo robot, the Wonder Woman one. She kind of talked like that, or she kind of talked like Wonder Woman, very fierce and determined and strong. She was like that in Absolute Power #1.
Yeah, so that's really cool. So like I said, this is our first part of this. Each issue is going to be written and the art is going to be by a different team. Yeah, our next one is going to be the Aquaman issue, which I'm really excited about to get back into. We haven't seen Aquaman in a while. But to start off, this was a fun one, and definitely I don't want to say it's a setup issue because, we've already had our setup, but this is a lot of it's reintroducing you to these ideas of the characters and Amanda Waller and what her plan is and all of that.
And we also get to see the return of the Dino Accountant.
The Dino Accountant is probably the best part of this issue.
From I have him behind on Shazam. I don't know if he's still in it, but from Mark Waid and Dan Moore's run. I think he probably is still in the book. I don't know. Yeah. But if you've read that run, you know who we're talking about. The dinosaur does all the paperwork. Like, he's in this, and it's really funny.
Yeah, that's a fun character.
Yeah.
So that is Task Force 7 #1 with Last Son. And I'm guessing, I don't think there's going to be any through, it's not like, but actually there's a through line through all of these. It doesn't really seem like there's much of one.
Well, except for that little bit at the end with the one guy.
Yeah.
Maybe
that could be that, but also if there's a particular character, you're like for me, I really want the Aquaman issue.
Yeah.
So if I didn't get any of the other ones, I might just get the Aquaman issue, and I think it would stand alone.
Yeah, I do think these are probably about 95% one and dones.
Yeah.
So if there's just a particular character you want, you should be okay just to get that one specific issue.
Yeah. So we've got some variants for this. Of course, we've got a Raposa variant. Cool. We've got this is the Stephen Platt variant with a very beat up looking Superman.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's going to jail, but okay.
That's a series of variants, right?
Yeah.
I remember the
Each
Green Lantern
issue,
one.
I think, has a version of them holding up their sign. We have this Brad Walker variant with some of the characters that appear in this issue. And we have our connecting variant. I believe is this John Timms?
Yeah, John Timms.
John Timms connecting.
Oh, is there a picture on the back of all of them?
And on the back, you do see where this falls on the connecting cover, so that's really cool.
Yeah, that is neat.
This 4x3 piece you'll be getting. And then we also have this really nice foil Dan Mora variant.
That's the one I'm getting that one that version for all of them.
Yeah.
It's so cool. The foil looks so good. Oh. Well, we're going to stick with DC, and we are going to talk about. This says From the Vault. Up at the top it says From the Vault, but there's no other books that are labeled like that. Yeah.
This vault that we haven't heard anything about so far.
But From the Vault, Death in the Family, Robin Lives, #1. So this is written by J.M.D. Mateus, and the art is by Rick Leonardi. And this is sent after the events of the Batman #428 Faux Simile book that came out a couple months ago, or maybe even longer. It was longer than that, I think. That showed us, what would have happened if Jason Todd had survived Joker's brutal attack on him, beating him with a crowbar. Obviously, that was the infamous issue where, readers could call in and vote whether he lives or dies. And DC, not knowing at the time, they made, endings for both of them. So that issue, that Faux Simile, showed us the ending where Robin lived. And I remember at the time saying, I would love to see that story continue. Yeah. And that's what this is. This is continuing that.
They listen to you in particular.
That's right. They watched this show and nothing else, and they said, that one guy, he wants this, so let's do it.
Think about this.
Yeah, right. This never occurred to us. So this just shows us, after all that happens, Jason Todd lived. What happens next? So this issue focuses a lot on Jason's trauma. Even weeks after it happens, he is physically completely healed. There's nothing wrong with him physically, but he still has a lot of pent-up anger. He's holding a lot inside. Bruce tries to talk to him. Dick tries to talk to him. Bruce even brings in a specialist, and just nothing works. He doesn't want to talk to anybody. He's very shut down. He won't open up. He wants to stay around the manor a lot and things like that. So that's most of the issue, is him trying to, deal with that, and Bruce trying to get him to open up. At one point, Batman confronts the Joker, and he is full of rage as well, and he almost takes it too far, to the point where another character has to intervene, and that bit was really cool. But overall, it's just definitely interesting. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about it, because a lot of it is just going through the psyche of Jason Todd and what he went through, and how can we bring him back from that. There is a little bit at the end where, he does some stuff as Robin, but he's still not in his right mind, and maybe he's just not, maybe he misses some things that he should have caught, so that kind of thing. But it's definitely an interesting story. I'm glad that they're doing this. It's a 4-issue miniseries. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens after this, and what will this lead to. Will it lead to something like Red Hood? Who knows? I don't know if we'll get that far if it's only a 4-issue series. But it's really cool, really cool concept. What if Jason Todd lived? This is that story. So we have our A cover right here. I also want to note
that the paper in it is like the newsprint paper, and the art in this very reminiscent of the time. So it does feel like it fits right in.
Yeah, I've totally forgot about it. It's not the glossy paper; it's that old school like newsprint style, and I really like that.
It just felt good.
I would love to have that back on a lot of books. Yeah. So here's our Mike Mignola variant, who did the cover of Batman 428 way back in the day.
Which I love. His art style has changed so severely that it's like, doesn't look anything like that Robin face that was in the first one.
Right. And then here is the 1 in 15 Mignola variant, black and white variant. We're selling for $20.
Love it. Okay, next up, probably my second favorite book of the week, or right up there with X-Men. This is Ultimates #2. So this is continuing our new, what seems to be, we've got Ultimate Spider-Man. This seems to be tackling a lot of the big story.
Yeah.
What is the kind of the spine of this new Ultimate universe?
What does this world look like? How did it get the way it is? That kind of thing.
You're really continuity heavy.
Well, actually, not the world so much as the country. What happened to North America? Because North America does not exist on this Earth right now.
Right. So previously they have brought Captain America back, and when he was frozen in ice, basically the universes were the same at that point. But when he woke up into a very different version of America, which is not even called America anymore. Right. And this book is kind of a split between, part of it is Captain America basically wanting answers for things and going to the White House to confront who's ever there about what's going on. The other part of it is apparently, I guess, Tony Stark has this like room that you can go into that basically catches Captain America up on what he missed when he was frozen in ice. And that's really cool because as he sees it, we see some of the stuff that we haven't known about yet.
Yeah, not a lot of explanation though. We just
No.
see images.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, what is that? And what did that?
but
What
you
is
see
that?
the
Yeah.
maker in it slowly
Yeah.
integrate himself into some very familiar
Yeah.
settings for the Marvel universe. But then things start. These characters are fighting a character that's like, oh, when did that happen?
Yeah.
Or that kind of stuff, which is really interesting. And so we know that Captain America kind of gets caught up on everything that's going on. So he goes to the White House to confront who's in the chair. And that is where we are introduced to a character called Midas, which, for all we know, is a first appearance.
Yeah, because we don't really know who Midas is.
Right. Never takes his helmet off.
Yeah.
Only refers to himself by Midas. And we kind of see, how he is integrated in all of this. Like, he's clearly also a puppet for this cabal.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's the one they put in the White House. But this is a great issue. There's a ton of action as Captain America and Midas go at it after each other. A big fight in the Oval Office and through some walls and floors that they might have knocked through. But it's really representing Captain America's version of America and what he kind of believes in and what he's standing up for in this new, very corporate version of America. I even wrote it down what he calls it. It's called the North American Union and Regional Subsidiaries.
Yeah.
So it's it's a very corporatized America, and it's cool to see the ideals fighting each other along with the characters. So there's a lot of action. There's a lot of back and forth of them talking to each other and being like your version's over and this is the new and I rule it and stuff. Really, really cool stuff. Very well scripted, even to when you get to the last page where it kind of wraps it all up. And the other big thing in here is there is a new character for the Ultimate Universe that appears in this that you'll have to read to find out how they are integrated into all of this.
It was very surprising. It's kind of a last couple pages reveal that I didn't quite see coming. Probably should have.
I mean, it's I don't know if they lead you to think it's one character, but I know in my head, and we both discussed it, we both thought it was this one character, and it was not them, which I thought was great too. I love being surprised in a book. So I thought the art was great. I thought the characterization of Captain America was really good. It's been a while since I've read this very, this kind of pure-hearted Captain America who just wants the right thing to be done. That was awesome in here. Plus, you've got Wasp and Giant Man, and who else is with them? Iron Lad, all kind of giving him support in his mission. So just a great issue of Ultimates that I can't wait to see where it goes from here, because they're really building up a cool roster and a really cool story. I feel like after this, Captain America is definitely going to be like, okay, I know where I stand on all of this, and I kind of know what I'm getting myself into.
And here's what we're going to do to fix all this.
Yeah. So there is our A cover, which, I mean, this with him holding him back is kind of representative of what happens in here. Once he kind of learns everything. We've got some great variants.
Oh, and I love that this continues the countdown that they've been giving us, 18 months, 17 months, because that dome is going to open up. And so that's what this book is them preparing for that dome to open.
So that's why I talked about Midas and it wasn't a spoiler. He's on the cover right there, and he is wearing one of Howard Stark's first suits, the gold suit, which I thought was really cool. There's a great kind of first reveal moment of him that says everything. Yeah. So this is our Nick Bradshaw variant. I think I got this one. I'm not sure. Now, there is a variant. There is a Inyuk Lee variant that I'm not going to show you because it does spoil the issue. So,
and I think in the solicitations, it was one of those that was blacked out that said spoiler. And yes, it is a spoiler. It's a big
spoiler. And I kind of hate people going to the comic book store and see it on the shelf.
Yeah.
But, read the issue. You'll find everything out. But, basically the punchline is on the cover.
Right.
The kind of the final bit is right there. And then we also have, I love this one. This is a 1 in 25 Terry Dodson variant. We're selling for just under $20, but just a great rendition of Captain America.
Yep. Well, next for me is a new book from Dark Horse called Kill All Immortals, and this is awesome. I love the art, the story, the action, everything. This was a home run for me. It's written by Zach Kaplan. The art is by Fico Ossio. And this book, this story is centered around the Aswald family, and they're this billionaire family. They have a huge empire. They seemingly have their hands in all these different industries, like media and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But
not so much philanthropy.
Right, right. And they're also immortal Vikings who are thousands of years old, and that is not a spoiler to say that because that's in the solicitations. That's what the story is about: is these immortal Vikings who are now billionaires and that kind of thing, and they're not also great people, right? So the head of the family, his name is Eric Aswald. He has 3 sons who sort of help him run this big empire. And then he also has a daughter named Frey. And she actually wants nothing to do with the family business. She is focused more on charitable work and things like that.
She's very much the opposite of kind of their...
all of them, yeah.
Their ideas.
So she has a friend who's a journalist named Owen. And they're in Kenya doing some charitable work there. And they get attacked by this group of... rebels or something like that. These soldiers or mercenaries is probably the best word for it. And she assumes that it has something to do with the family's business dealings. So she and Owen go to visit her family, and they're billionaires, so they have this big, nice house, in the middle of nowhere. She goes to visit them to figure out, hey, what are you doing that would have caused this? And will you protect us? Can we have your protection while, whatever it is gets sorted out? Well, I'm not going to say anything more after that. I'm going to let you read the rest of that on your own. I don't want to spoil anything. But we do know from these solicitations that Frey wants to be free of her family's influence. She just wants out, basically. But that's going to lead her into direct conflict with her family. And that's what the main story of this whole series is going to be. But this first issue was great. It does a great job setting everything up, introducing us to all the characters. The artwork is good. There's some good action in it. Mm-hmm. Everything is appropriately bloody. I found Frey's family to actually be quite scary.
Yeah.
Like if I were in Owen's situation, going to their house and sitting down for a meal with them, I would be extremely intimidated.
You kind of get that kind of a mafia feel of like, these people will do anything and no one's going to do anything about it.
Right.
They're not going to do
anything about it.
Yeah, they're not going to get in trouble, whatever they do to me.
So her family is scary, and it's going to be cool to see her go up against them. Again, that's not a spoiler. That's what the solicitations told us this was going to be. But just, I loved it. I thought this was great. I don't know, does it say how many issues it's going to be? No, I think it is a miniseries, but I'm not sure the number of issues. I think maybe 4 or 5. But great. So if you're looking for something a little bit different, I highly recommend this one. It was really, really good. So we have our A cover right there, and we have this one variant by Riccardi right there. That is her father, Eric, and that is Frey right there.
She's got a hatchet. Not spoilers, but there's some surprises that you learn about her family and everything, and it's just cool to see these big Viking guys, they have the braided beards, and she always has a braid in her hair, but in very modern clothes and business suits. It's just aesthetically very cool. Even their do they live in Norway? Does it say it's Norway?
I don't remember where. I mean, it's not...
It's a very, they have to take a boat there, and it's, in the snow. So it feels very Viking, but also
Scandinavian.
Very modern.
Right.
It's just a cool aesthetic. Okay, next up, we have Action Comics 1067. This is a big one. We finished up with our House of Brainiac story, and while Absolute Power's going on, it'd be hard to run alongside that, considering, Superman's doing most of that, and Superman, it doesn't have any powers currently. So we are taking a trip back to sometime in the early career of Superman / Clark Kent for this storyline. So this is written by Gail Simone. Big deal returning Gail Simone to DC. Hasn't worked there for a while, but is a fantastic writer. And the art is by Eddie Barrows. And this, like I said, takes place in the early days, and it's very, it doesn't say a year or how many years earlier, but it's got a feel of Clark's very much dressed like a golden age reporter. He's got the hat.
The clothing of everybody around him felt very 70s to me.
It did. Lois, in particular, with their headband and all that, feels very 70s. But, it doesn't really, they don't put a date on any of this.
Could be anything.
But this kind of sets up what the story is. And it's going to be interesting talking about this story because I feel like there's different levels to this. So this issue is broken up into 2 stories. The kind of the main story I'll talk about first, where Clark and Jimmy and Lois are out on assignment. They're not working for the Daily Planet. It's the radio station, I guess.
I thought at one point Daily Planet had its own like broadcast.
Yeah, it's something like that. They don't say Daily Planet. They say like letters, like or something. But they're out on assignment. And what I do really like about this, it's very like, hey, let's pull back from the big stuff like Superman's been facing. And he's reporting on this kind of normal, small, like, not small, but there's
it was like a civic center.
A civic center dispute about they need funding and all this. But of course, Lois has the one up on Clark every time, and she has the better scoop going on. But that's when aliens invade. It feels pretty classic Superman. Aliens invade. What I did really like, there is a moment where Superman, because of course Clark goes away, comes back Superman, teams up with the local kids who like play basketball at the Civic Center, and they're like supporting Superman. Yeah. It just feels like very like this is a time frame where people love Superman. Yeah. He was, the person to look up to. But this begins a whole story about these aliens that come, and apparently they go to a bunch of different planets, and they basically like make the planet play their game. And they're like, well, you had a choice in it when really they didn't. Yeah. And it's like, if you lose, we take the planet. And Superman says, well, then I'll play. And it's a big fight and stuff. It's, very classic Superman story in the story plots. Now, the other part, the depth of this, I think, and I remember Gail Simone mentioning this, is a lot of the story is less about that and more about Superman, about his ideals, his personality, his courage, his, who he is as a character. And that's reflected in the storytelling where it feels like a very classic, almost golden age written story. It's got narration that kind of guides you along to, Superman in a quiet breath that hasn't been heard.
It did feel like I was reading a book from the 60s or the 70s in the way that it was just you're seeing it, but you're still describing it anyway.
Yeah, with very like a colorful language of this quiet but powerful voice. Yeah. Superman says, and then he says something.
And there's even thought bubbles.
Yeah,
which we don't get much of anymore.
So I do see what Gail Simone is going for with this. This is a kind of,
he has the classic. That's his symbol.
Yeah.
So
which I really like. So I think people who read this and think like, oh, this kind of feels like a kind of average Superman adventure. I think the real story is in Superman's character and his. Like, let's get back to the most classic version of Superman, which I think is a really cool idea. The art is great as well. It's very action-packed, very comic book. That part is not old school. That is very, modern-day action with Superman. That I thought was really, really great. And I'm looking forward to seeing kind of how this is constructed, given the format that Gail Simone is using to write this. I even noticed in the beginning she dedicated this to Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams, which feels right for this. Yeah. It definitely harkens to them a lot in it. So that was the first story. The second story does take place pretty modern.
It's current day.
It's current day. It's
it's current day, but forget absolute power. It's.
And this one focuses on Lois Lane, and I really like this because this is a story about Lois. This is written by Rainbow Rowell, and the art is by Cian Torme, and it's about Lois figuring out what kind of editor-in-chief she's going to be at the Daily Planet, because she keeps comparing herself to Perry, who is now running for mayor, and she's really wondering, what kind of boss am I going to be? I can't be Perry. And, Clark basically says, then you need to be Lois. Yeah. But what does that look like? And this is her figuring out what line she's willing to cross, and given her relationship with Superman, how she morally deals with this, which I thought this is a really in-depth, interesting story about Lois, in the next stage of her career. So I thought that was great. I like the art a lot in that one. This was just a really interesting Superman story, which I also think is perfect for Action Comics.
Right.
I think this is a perfect Action Comic story. So there is your A cover for that, which I really love his suit in this. It's just, it's so classic. We also have this Wes Craig variant, which feels very almost like Fleischer animation. We've got a foil version of the A cover. We have this Villalobos variant with Lois, which I really like. And we also have this 1 in 25 Oliver variant we are selling for $14.99.
Well, next for me is another new book from Image. This is The Domain #1. So this is very closely tied into Chip Zdarsky's Public Domain series, if you're reading that, because it's written by Chip Zdarsky, I should mention, and the art is by Rachel Stott. So in Public Domain, you know that that's a very kind of real worldy book where you got like this Jack Kirby analog and Stan Lee analog, and this guy is and his family are making a comic book called The Domain. Well, this is the comic book that they're making in that series, so it's really cool. You get to read one series about these people making a comic book, and then you get to actually read the comic they're making, and it's really cool. So in particular, it's all fictional, right? But this is the story inside the story. So in this story in particular, it is about these three friends. They're named Max, Destiny, and Liz, and they find this crashed alien spaceship that have aliens in them, and they have these gauntlets. They're wearing these gauntlets that give them these powers. So all three of these friends, they each put on a gauntlet because there's more than one, and they find that the gauntlets give them access to these superpowers, basically. However, they learn that only one of them can use the powers at a time. So when one, they have these suits, you can see here. And so when the suit comes on one, it goes off of another. So they have to share it, basically. And obviously, they want to keep all of this a secret from the government and whoever else. But there may be somebody else who already knows about the downed crashed spaceship, or maybe they find out as well. So that's going to be sort of the conflict is, are these other people going to, and actually there might be a couple parties that come after them because of what they have found. So just really cool, just this issue was just kind of setting up that premise. And again, it's just kind of cool to read the story inside the story. It's very meta to have, or it's very cool to have both of these run alongside each other, reading about these people making this book and then reading about the book that they make. I just think that whole thing is cool. And that's pretty much it for this. I think, I'm not sure there's going to be at least 3 issues of this. I'm not sure if there's going to be more or not, but hopefully there will be.
So could you read this without reading?
You could, because this doesn't, you could, because
it doesn't have a zoom out.
No. There's not, this is, for all intents and purposes, this is its own story. Nothing about anything that's going on in the quote-unquote real world of this book. It's just this. So you could read it, but you would miss a little bit of the extra behind the scenes of that kind of thing. So, but it is cool because it's, you can see at the top, they actually have the fictional creator's name at the top, but then it's scratched out with the real world creator. So it's very, very cool. So yeah, this is our A cover right here. And we also have this really awesome Angiolini variant that kind of looks like a character creator in an RPG, which I think is really neat. That's one of the characters right there. That is Destiny, I believe. Is that her name on it? Yeah, Destiny. Yeah, it says right there.
Confirmed. Okay, next up, real quick, I'm going to talk about Star Wars Ahsoka #1. This is written by Rodney Barnes and the art is by Stephen Cummings. And this is like the Obi-Wan comic, like the Mandalorian comic. They've done this several times. It is an adaptation of the Disney Plus TV show, where each issue represents one episode of the show, so you know exactly how many issues it's going to be given the show. But this one's cool because I don't know. I like these because if there are certain episodes, I know which ones I'm looking forward to and what happens and all that. And because of that, when first appearances are going to happen. So this covers the story Master and Apprentice, the first episode. And in this will be your first appearance of Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati from Ahsoka. So, you automatically know that right there. And I can't remember if Huyang, the droid who is Ahsoka's kind of co-pilot and the expert on building lightsabers, all of that. I can't remember if he appeared in any of the like Clone Wars comics or anything like that because he was around then. But he is in this, of course, because he was in the show, so you get that. What more do you say? If you like the show and you want to consume it a different way, this is good. It's got some great covers. So that is Ahsoka #1. We've got this great David Nakayama A cover. We also have this Aka variant. I really like that one. We've got this really cool Ken Lashley foil variant.
Yeah, the foil on that looks awesome.
Yeah, that's a very well done spot foil. We have the Phantom Menace 25th anniversary with a Jabba. We've got this Dursima variant. We've got this Wu variant with Sabine, who has appeared in plenty of comics before, but it's just cool to read Sabine and something. We've got a John Tyler Christopher action figure variant. Man, you've had all of those.
Oh yeah.
You've got maybe a couple of long boxes full.
Yeah.
We've got a 1 in 10 concept art variant. We're selling for $6.99 of Sabine with her helmet on. And we also have this 1 in 25. It's called the TV variant for $14.99. It's kind of just a poster.
All right, well, next I've got Batman, Gotham by Gaslight, the Kryptonian Age, #2, just continuing our return to the Elseworlds line of books. And in this one, there are we basically got 3 different stories going on in this. And just, in case you don't know, this is the return to Gotham by Gaslight world, but whereas the original story was just focused on Batman, this series is introducing more DC characters that we know into this world, basically. So we have 3 different stories and going on. Like I said, there is one well-known DC character, I won't tell you who it is, but they're leading an expedition to Antarctica in the search for ruins of the Kryptonian Age, and we know that that's a thing in this world, right? There was an art exhibition at a museum in the first issue that said the Kryptonian Age. Well, this character and a crew of other people are going to look for more relics from that, but they do find something. It's a little bit more than they bargained for. We also have Batman battling the mysterious thief, who I don't remember if they revealed who that was, but it's revealed in this. Mm-hmm. So he's battling that character on the train. We saw a lot of that last issue near the end. And later, he investigates the fact that this is the really interesting part, that for the last few years, there have been all of these wealthy collectors who have all possessed some kind of ancient relic, but they've died. So, I thought that part was really cool. And then there's another well-known DC character that shows up in this, who, let's just say they become a government operative, and they are tasked with researching an ancient power. So, I don't want to say who all shows up in this, but it was cool to just see, characters that we know from the main DC universe pop up in this world as well. And, you think the Kryptonian Age alludes to Superman, but I will say he's not in this. So more to come on that. I just want to know where all this is going, really. But just another cool issue. If you like the first one, I think you'll definitely like this, so don't miss that. So we have our A cover right here. We got a couple variants. This is the Dennis Cowan and Christopher Santameyer variant. We've got this Riley Rossmo and Ivan Placenia variant. I like that one a lot. That's really cool. Riley Rossmo's art seems like it fits that era real well. And then there's this 1 in 25 Edgecure variant that we're selling for $12.99.
Yeah, it's interesting too that they're playing with genres a little bit. I know the opening scene is very H.P. Lovecraft and the Mountains of Madness. Yeah. With this expedition that goes out and finds this ancient, in that it would be like this Hyborian age or Hyperborean age, and then it's Kryptonian. Which alludes a little bit to the Batman Shadow over Innsmouth that Mignola also did. So they're kind of building out this version of Gotham by Gaslight as in more ways than just, it's Batman. It's like, there's some horror elements, there's some sci-fi elements, and I think that's cool. So it's called Batman Gotham by Gaslight, but it really could just be called like DC Universe by Gaslight. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because Batman's only part of it, right? Yeah.
Okay, next up, I have From the World of Minor Threats, Barfly #1. So this is, like it says, From the World of Minor Threats, which I have not read any Minor Threats. I know we have a bunch of customers here who love it. I really want to read it. We always sell out of the trade of the kind of first 2 volumes of it, so I am going to read it. And I thought, hey, I'm going to jump into this not really knowing anything and check it out, see what I think. So this is written by Kyle Starks, and the art is by Ryan Brown, and the story plot is by Patton Oswalt, Kyle Starks, and Jordan Bloom. And I gotta say, I really like this. This was another one of my favorite books of the week. Definitely the sense of humor was really great in this, along with Ryan Brown's art, who you may know from 8 Billion Genies or God Hates Astronauts. There's a lot of jokes in the background of this book, which is really fun to dig into. But this follows basically a henchman who I believe was a background character in one of the other series, and this kind of explores him. So I can't say his name. His name is Blank Eater.
That's where,
yeah,
that's where you,
who's a fly guy.
Yeah.
But they also just call him Fly or Barfly or whatever. And he used to be a henchman for a villain called the Entomologist. And he would just basically throw these fly people he had at the heroes, and they just, get killed. They were the red shirts of this villain.
Splatter on their windshield.
Yeah, but the entomologist got defeated. So what happens to these weird fly people that he had in his, I don't know if this is the only one left, but now he's just kind of down, out of work. He can't talk, at least not to people. There is a time where he does talk in this to another insectoid character, but he just kind of hangs out and just gets beat up at this bar. There's one guy coming. I can't remember what his name is. He's a football player, but also a zombie. It's like his thing, and he just beats up Barfly every time and says, "You're sitting in my seat," and he's like, "They're all my seat." But Barfly wants more out of life. He works at a fast food restaurant, and apparently he's actually really good at making hamburgers, but he's just a gross fly working at a thing. His boss is a jerk. But one day he's walking by, and in a window he sees a really cool guitar. He wants the guitar, and he wants to form a band. There's someone else who at his work who talks about forming a band. But as his life is, it's still bad, but it looks like maybe he has a little bit of aspirations in it. His past comes back to call, and that's kind of where we leave it off. So you'll have to read to find out how all that works. But I thought this was really fun. I haven't read any of the other of the Minor Threats books, but now this even more makes me want to read them, because I thought the humor in this is great. I really like this character. He's kind of a little sad, kind of cute, but just really funny. And yeah, I recommend it. I thought it was great. So this is a mini series, Barfly, #1. And we also got some variants for it. This is the Morazzo variant. There's him with his guitar, looking more confident than he ever does in the book. And I love this one. This is our 1 in 10 Dan Hip variant that we're selling for at $12.99. And he's a fly, and he's also surrounded by little flies.
Yeah. His pals.
His little friend.
Yeah. All right, well, next up is Giant Size Silver Surfer #1. This is just another of the one and done giant size books that Marvel's been putting out throughout the course of this year. This is written by Matt Groom, and the art is by Tommaso Bianchi. And in this one's all about Terrax and Silver Surfer. Terrax lures Silver Surfer to this planet by threatening some of that planet's inhabitants. And his reasoning is that he's tired of living in the shadow of Silver Surfer and not being considered the best of Galactus's heralds. He says, everybody knows about Silver Surfer and the rest of us have to live in your shadow, that kind of thing. And the whole story is pretty much just them fighting. Although they aren't the only ones there. I will say there is another character in this, but I'll leave that for you to find out. But yeah, it's pretty much just them fighting, and Silver Surfer, holding his own, but still kind of being a pacifist, you don't really need to do this, that kind of thing, but also still, landing some punches when he needs to, that kind of thing. And also a reprint, Silver Surfer #80 by Ron Mars and Ron Lim, and that is a story that heavily featured Terrax as well. So even though it's a giant size Silver Surfer, it's really more about Terrax than anything else. But yeah, just another good one if you're collecting all the giant size, or if you're a Silver Surfer fan, this is a great one to get. So this is our A cover right here, and we have this Barden variant with the deadly foes of Silver Surfer But the only one in this one is Terrax.
Oh, I like Firelord.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, I've got TMNT 40th Anniversary Special. This is, of course, celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Ninja Turtles. This is an $11.99 one-shot, but it is a thick one. And what's really cool about this, I know there's a lot of confusion about, oh, is this just reprint or is this original content? It's original content. They brought back a lot of the creators of the different Ninja Turtle series throughout the years. So this does have a Kevin Eastman story in the very beginning with art. You know, it looks like an original Ninja Turtles book, but even it incorporates maybe some Last Ronin stuff into it. We've got the creators from the Image Comics days, where you see, you know, very square looking version of the characters, the Archie, but it even goes into the cartoon versions, the Rise of the TMNT, the more recent, I think maybe 2012, something like that. Ninja Turtles, all the way to modern. So you have all of that with short stories from each era, and what's cool about it is the art and everything reflects those too. So it feels like kind of missing stories from each of those. So if you're a big TMNT fan, maybe there's a certain era that you're a big fan of, you wish came back. It's probably in here. I wish there was a live action one that was just like movie stills or something. The Secret History of Mikey's Decaying Mask or something. But it's really cool. So this is our A cover. I really like this variant. This is the Michael Cho variant. Just looks like a really fun comic. And then we also have this. This is the 1 in 10 Escorza variant. We're selling for $19.99 with Last Ronin.
I like my comics like I like my milkshakes, thick.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, you said it was a thick book. Yeah.
It is a thick book.
All right, so this is Kid Venom #1, and this is written and drawn by Taigami. So not the first appearance of this character. We first met Kid Venom in one of the issues of...
Was it Edge of the Spider-Verse?
No,
or Edge of the Venomverse?
End of the Venomverse, I think. One of the Venomverse books, right? And then they collected those backup stories into a Kid Venom #0, and this is new content. This is a new material. So in going through it visually, it looks like a volume of manga from the way, you know, the art is drawn. It looks very manga-esque to the word balloons are real big and the font is real big and there's actually not a whole lot of dialogue on one page. So it looks very much like manga. It's set in Japan in 977, not 1977, actually 977. And Kintaro, who is our main character, who is the host of a Venom symbiote, I guess. He is attempting to defeat a large Oni, which back then that's what they called symbiotes due to their sort of demonic nature. But he's unable to due to the fact that that Oni has no host. And so that makes it a little bit different. So he's able to defeat it with the help of one of his fellow members of the Samurai Corps that he's in. This other character's named Sadamitsu. And when they get back home, they tell their master of this hostless Oni, and they burn what's left of it. And in the ashes, they find a very surprising item. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, but when I saw it, I was like, oh, I want to know, how is that possible? Yeah. How is that thing there? So, definitely more to come on that. But unbeknownst to them, they have actually been tracked back to their home, and that leads to a big confrontation with even more Oni. And I guess we're gonna have to, he's maybe gonna have to unleash the beast, if you will, and try to take them on along with other members of the samurai clan that they're part of. But yeah, just a new story. If you liked Kid Venom in those other books, this is all new original content for you to read. So there's our A cover right there, and we got some cool variants. This is the In-Hyuk Lee variant right there. This I like this one a lot. This is the Philip Tan homage variant, kind of the Venom Lethal Protector by Mark Bagley from back in the 90s, kind of homaging that. We have this really awesome Sandoval foil variant. And then we have this 1 in 25, is that Will's Portatio? Yeah, 1 in 25 Will's Portatio variant that we're selling for $19.99.
Next up, I've got Annihilation 2099 #2. So this is the weekly series that doesn't have so much Spider-Man in it, actually none so far, but is exploring the more cosmic characters of the 2099 universe. This one follows the new Star-Lord of 2099, who is a part Wakandan, part Mexican American woman who definitely, as a Star-Lord, has quite a bump in kind of technology and power. I guess because it's 2099, but it seems to be less of like an outlaw and more maybe works for some kind of space police type thing, kind of like a Nova. But in this, there's some planets that are being plagued by their sun because they have not been tithing or making the right offerings to it, and the sun is subsequently destroying these planets. But turns out that the sun is actually our quasar 2099. So how does Star-Lord stop this quasar? And, all that fun stuff. So I really like this. I really like the first one, so I'm very excited about the next one with Red Hulk. But yeah, if you enjoyed the last one, check out Annihilation 2099 number 2. This is our A cover. And we also have this really nice Ken Lashley variant with Star-Lord 2099 and with that frame. She has a big hammer, and they say she's kind of a cross between Captain Marvel and Thor.
Okay.
With kind of her powers and everything.
Interesting. Well, next we've got Green Lantern number 13. Now, this is an absolute power tie-in for the most part. So if you're trying to get all the tie-ins, don't miss Task Force 7 number 1 and also this. So we get a few different stories, a few little snippets of different stories in this issue. We see Hal Jordan, who has been kidnapped by Amanda Waller and King Shark. She wants to know how he powers his ring, because if you've been reading the series, you know that his ring is not like the other Green Lantern rings. It's a little bit different. And she wants to know basically all about it, but of course he's not going to tell her. We also see what's going on with the Rebel Lanterns on Oa. We see Sinestro again, which is pretty cool. We do see the JSA's fight with Jadestone, who is the Green Lantern Amazo robot, the one that stole Alan Scott's powers. And we're going to see more of that in Absolute Power Task Force 7 number 3. So that it's almost like a little teaser, more or less. And then we see something very interesting with the character Nathan Allen Broom, who is or was Carol Ferris's fiance that she left last issue for Hal. Something really interesting involving him is in this book, and I'll leave it at that. Really, really interesting. I'll have to show you later. But yeah, just so it is an Absolute Power tie-in in some places, and in some places it's just following up on things that we've seen just in this series so far. But if you've been reading Green Lantern, you're definitely going to want this because there's a whole bunch of stuff. So we have our A cover right here. We got some cool variants for this too. We have a Gleb Melnikov variant. I love the way he draws things there. This is the Salvador LaRocca and Laura Martin variant with Hal Jordan. I love this one. This is the Jose Luis Garcia Lopez style guide variant. They've got that style guide coming out soon, so I love that one for sure. And then this is the 1 in 25 Hill variant that we're selling for $12.99.
Well, next up, I've got Transformers number 10. This was another great issue. In this one, there was kind of a surprise at the end of the last one where Beachcomber appeared. It doesn't seem like he was part of the group we've been following that came on the Ark and all of that. We get Beachcomber's kind of backstory in here. How did he get to Earth? What has he been doing? And kind of what are his views on what's going on now, which was really cool. Plus, we see some horrifying stuff with Shockwave, where maybe they would have been better off with Starscream as their leader, because Shockwave is truly maniacal. And Shockwave makes a big move, literally. Not just figuratively, but literally, that you'll have to check out. So, another great issue of Transformers. Here is our A cover. We've got our Corona variant there with Beachcomber. We've got the 1 in 10 Darbo variant we're selling for $6.99. We've got a 1 in 25 Lopez Ortiz variant we're selling for $14.99 with a very maniacal Shockwave on there. And lastly, we have a 1 in 50 Zonjic variant we're selling for $34.99.
Well, next we've got Spider-Boy number 9, and this starts Spider-Boy's adventures through the Spider-Verse, I guess. The first page, this is not a spoiler, this is the very first page. It's really interesting. Spider-Man is standing in a graveyard with Madam Web, and she says, I don't know that it's Madam Web because it looks very much like a Madam Web, but they're shadowed out. So maybe it's not. But the person I thought was Madam Web says, now that he's gone, she's talking to Spider-Man, and she says, now that he's gone, did you believe that he really was who he said he was? Talking about Spider-Boy. It's like, what's up with that? But then the issue jumps a few hours prior, and Spider-Boy confronts Madam Web and Silk and Aranya. We saw this at the end of last issue, demanding that they fix his return to reality. You know, they brought him back to reality, but he says that they broke it because nobody remembers who he is, and he's demanding that they fix it. And they do try, but he ends up basically falling through the Spider-Verse and trading places with another Spider-Man from a different Earth. And if you've read the Spider-Man books, you've seen this character before, but I won't spoil it for you who it was. So that's a whole big thing in this issue. And then I don't think we're done with Spider-Boy visiting different worlds and realities, and we see something else at the end of the issue. But yeah, it's cool to see, you know, Spider-Boy has already had his own kind of sort of clone saga, and now he's going tripping through the Spider-Verse. So just a pretty interesting if you're a Spider-Verse fan, and you definitely want to check this out. So there's our A cover right there, and we got some cool variants. This is the Mark Bagley. Well, maybe that spoils part of who. Never mind. That's Mark Bagley right there, and we have this Fuji Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe variant, and he's doesn't look like he did such a great job with Spider-Boy. I don't know. How did he web him up though? He doesn't have web shooters. But yeah, he's playing video games.
He borrowed.
Yeah.
Borrowed some. Yeah, Spider-Boy's getting his own crash course.
Right. In how to be Spider-Man. Yeah.
Next up, I have Geiger, number 4, just continuing this fantastic story by Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. In the last issue, the electrician stole Barney, Geiger's dog.
Oh, right.
And Geiger's been pretty chill for most of this. You know, he's a loner. He doesn't really want conflict. Well, now he, let's say I keep wanting to call him the electrocutioner. The electrician leaves something where Geiger knows exactly that he took Barney and the direction he's heading. And now Geiger doesn't care about combat because where they were going to go around this airport that was full of the organ people, who were these cannibal people, he decides, you know what, I'm just going to go straight through them. And there is a ton of action in this one. So it was a great issue. Because there's been some kind of somber issues or whatever. This one, you see him go full Geiger, radioactive, tearing through this facility that was great, but I'm very worried about Barney. So that is our A cover for that. We also have this. This is the Arujo variant as well.
All right, well, next we have got some Blood Hunt tie-ins, because we're not done with Blood Hunt yet. We've got 4 tie-ins this week that we're going to talk about over the course of the rest of the show. The first one is Avengers number 16. This is the last part of this story, the last time this book will tie in with Blood Hunt. And basically, it's just a final showdown between the Avengers and Baron Blood and his Nazi vampires. There's a lot of great art and great action in this. The ending is really cool. Not really a cliffhanger or anything, but just the way that it ends is really, really neat. This has been my favorite of all the Blood Hunt tie-ins. Great action, great artwork. This could have been its own story. Even without Blood Hunt, you could have had a team of Avengers fighting Nazi vampires for reasons. Just great. And this, kind of sad to see it end, especially with this team. I like this roster. Hercules and Hazmat are great together. Kate Bishop. So, just want to let you know about the last issue of that Avengers tie-in. That's our A cover. We have this Mike McCone variant right there. And we've got this Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe hardened variant with Deadpool and Black Panther. That looks super cool. And we have this Martin Coccolo Stormbreakers variant with Deadpool and Wolverine. Nice homage cover. Yep. And Martin Coccolo is your artist on the upcoming main ongoing Wolverine books. There's a little preview.
Next up, I've got Ain't No Grave, number 3. Continues this fantastic series that I hope everyone's reading. Scotty Young and Jorge Corona are a fantastic team. In this one, you've got our, cowboy rider in the afterlife. She's now found her way onto a riverboat. And there she's going to play cards against Madam Gates, who is kind of the running the show there. This is a very creepy riverboat. There's a lot of twisted, weird things going on there, but just kind of adds to the cool atmosphere. They're playing winner takes all. If Ryder loses, she has to work on the riverboat, and she sees a little hint of what that means, and it's really scary. But if she wins, she gets more help to finding death, her ultimate goal in the afterlife. And also, there's a cool parallel between that and when she was younger with her family about her card playing. So, just another great issue of Ain't No Grave going on right there. There's your A cover. And we also have this really nice 1 in 25 Scotty Young variant. We're selling for just under $60.
I like that. Well, next we've got Hulk Blood Hunt #1. Now, this is a one-shot. This is Hulk's, chance at Blood Hunt. Written by Phil Kennedy Johnson. The art is by Danny Earls. This is pretty low importance to the main Blood Hunt story. It doesn't really inject a lot into it. But in this one, Bruce Banner is traveling to Vegas to get help restoring Charlie to her human form. And, so that's obviously continuing from the main Hulk storyline. But he stops in this town called Old Tucson, which is completely abandoned except for one guy named Miguel. And Miguel tells Bruce the truth about this town, which ultimately leads to the Hulk fighting a horde of vampires who live underground, but who can now come to the surface because the skies have gone dark now, right? I did like this. I thought the action was really good. I did feel like actually this could probably just have been another issue of the main Hulk story. There's vampires involved, but it didn't really, he could have just fought vampires along his travels. Didn't really need to connect to Blood Hunt. But, if you're getting all those issues, if you like that series of Hulk, I think you'll definitely want to get this because it feels like it fits right in line with the current Hulk storyline. So did a good job with that. So there's our A cover right there. And we've got this Asrar variant, the nice Incredible Hulk giant size #1 homage cover. This is the who does
Galloway.
Yeah, Galloway Saturday morning variant. And then there's a 1 in 25 Bianchi variant that we're selling for $24.99.
Does this have any relation to that story in Blood Hunters where he was also underground fighting zombies?
Not really. No.
It's funny. It just makes a habit of it.
Yeah, right.
And lastly, for me, I've got Amazing Spider-Man #53. Not a whole lot to say about this. This is the penultimate issue of the Easy Being Green, I think is the story art, with Spider-Goblin. And this one, it seems like he's pretty much moved past the Spider-Goblin stuff.
Maybe. I don't know.
He was weirdly laughing in the last issue, but this one he doesn't laugh at all, so maybe he's past that. But it's him facing off against Norman. Actually, it's him preparing to face off against Norman as Kamala Khan and some of the other, the Walking Brain, and some of those characters are now kind of created their own little team.
Living Brain, not Walking.
No, he changed his name to Walking Brain when he got out.
I guess that makes sense.
Walking around. They face off against Norman Osborn. So a lot of great action in this. The art is still great with Ed McGuinness and Todd Knock on there. So, if you need to finish out this Spider-Goblin story, this is the one before the last. That is your A cover. We also have this Avengers vs. Aliens variant by Tony Daniel with Spider-Man. And we got this 1 in 25 Dodderman variant with all the different suits of Spider-Man, which is really cool. We're selling that for $25. And lastly, we have this 1 in 50 Delato variant we are selling for just under $35, which I believe this is a connecting variant.
Yeah. All right, I've got Wolverine Blood Hunt #3. This is the next to last issue of the Wolverine tie into the Blood Hunt story. Again, low importance, doesn't really inject much into the main story, but Wolverine and Night Guard are continuing their assault, I guess, on Maverick's base. But the question kind of comes up, who is hunting whom, right? Because, Maverick is very aware of what they're doing. They fight through a whole horde of vampires to try to get at Maverick, and Wolverine takes a drastic measure to stop Maverick once and for all. And, wonder how he's going to get out of it, basically. But just want to let you know about Wolverine Blood Hunt #3. There's our A cover right there. And then we have this really cool Nick Bradshaw variant. And do you have any more?
Nope, I'm done.
I got one more, just real quick. Union Jack the Ripper Blood Hunt #3. This is the last issue of the Union Jack Blood Hunt tie-in. Also, still kind of low importance to the main story. But Union in this one, Union Jack and the others, they use Bulldog as kind of a bloodhound to follow his mental pull to the vampire that turned Bulldog into a vampire. And when Union Jack finds out who it is, he's terrified. And it's really interesting to see Union Jack that way. And actually, just like in the Wolverine book, Union Jack also takes a very drastic measure to stop that vampire as well. So we got heroes doing whatever needs to be done in order to beat the bad guy a lot. So we have our A cover for that right there. And then this is the really cool Philip Tan variant.
And that's it?
That's it.
That's it. It was a big week with a lot of heavy-hitting books.
Yep.
Definitely with X-Men and Ultimates and Action and all of those. Task Force 7. So, like we said, head over to infinityflux.net right now. While supplies last, the books are there to order. Whether you're local and you can come by and pick them up, or you get them shipped to you, you can always count on infinityflux.net. That's a new slogan thing.
Right.
I
Put
just
that on the website, yeah.
So thank you so much for watching. Definitely check out our show coming up on Wednesday. We'll be going over the books that you can pre-order by the weekend, and there's some really good ones on there already, so that's going to be great. And if you made it to the end of the show,
just leave us another X. We already did the X emoji once, but do it again because X-Men is big and it's good and it's good to have it.
It's good to have it.
Yeah.
So until next time, see ya.